Hello there, and welcome back to the Agostinho Zinga Show with your host, Agostinho Zinga, and this is episode number 664. This is 664 of the Agostinho Zinga Show with your host, Agostinho Zinga, and I hope you are doing well wherever this show may find you. I hope you are doing swimmingly. How am I? All good, all things considered, all good, all things considered. I cannot complain. I really cannot complain. Just got back from a pretty decent session at the gym. It's been a while. Decided to go in there and pump some weights and get the blood flowing through my lovely muscles. And yes, let me tell you, it felt absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And the plan today is to do something that I haven't done in a long time, is do 2-a-days. So later on today, I shall be outside running also. I was tempted to hit the treadmill, but a part of me just dies every time I'm on it. I feel like running should be, should be only done outside unless you are physically unable to do so. I think you should try your best to head outside, get some fresh air, and actually run outside on the concrete, on the grass, wherever it may be. That's possibly the best way to do this type of thing. And seeing as I don't have any health complications or bodily complications, why not? Let's just go for it. So hopefully today I shall be doing it. Not hopefully, I will. Let's make sure we get that speech corrected, and I shall be where I need to be, and there shall be an Alton Mason summer sooner rather than later. But I've also got some decent good news to report, actually, that I'm quite happy about. So I got confirmed. I've had it confirmed, and I'm really over the moon about it today because I got it confirmed that I'll be DJing sometime next week, Friday, the 21st of April, actually, at this pub that I played at before. It's the first time in a long time I've had kind of back-to-back sets playing in places, and this time should be a little bit interesting because the first time that I went and played at this place, I wasn't basically given the adequate information about what sort of setup they had. I also didn't ask, many questions, and I just assumed they'd have CDJs with USB ports that you can basically plug in like I do play in every other place and in most kind of big clubs out there and kind of bars and clubs, whatever it may be. But unfortunately for me, this place is one of those ones where they have a PA machine. They have a decent mixer you can plug into, and you can plug a MIDI player in there, but there is no ability to play with CDJs because they don't own any. So I had to bring my own basically MIDI player, which I'm kind of fortunate, and I'm really happy that I didn't throw away, because there was a period during the lockdown when I wasn't really using it, and it's just kind of been gathering dust and basically been acting as a makeshift paperweight. That I was considering throwing away my little Pioneer DJ MIDI player type of thing, and I'm glad I didn't do it. I'm glad I didn't, because now I've got this thing that I can use when I go and play these events at these bars and at these pubs where they don't necessarily have a DJ equipment in any way, shape or form. That shall be fun. But the other thing I'm also kind of looking forward to is having a kind of second round, because the first time I went there, I don't think I did the best job, just because it was, again, I had a set prepared on my USB, then it changed and I had to kind of come through with my laptop and my DJ equipment. I had to basically go home. Luckily the owner of the place was able to drive me back because I don't live too far from the venue, and I was able to get my equipment and then use it. And then I realized that the flipping USB stick that I had wasn't allowing me to basically use the same playlist I created on Record Box within the Serato DJ kind of program stuff. Loads of madness. But essentially anything that I prepared a week prior to play at this place, I couldn't actually play when I got there. So a little bit of a roadblock, a little bit of a speed hump that I kind of overcome. So now the second time going around there, the plan is to deliver what I think I would like to hear if I went to play in those type of pubs, if I was in there. Basically that's kind of my MO, because these bars and pubs, for the most part, that I go and play in, they're not techno nightclubs, they're not house nightclubs, they're not nightclubs in any way, shape or form. They're just pubs where they may have a dance floor, they may have a late license, and they may have the ability to have people dancing and mucking about and whatnot, and they've got a decent equipment on the corner or a live band that can play. So for the most part, you are playing in a space where most of the people don't actually want you to be there, which is a really strange thing to kind of wrangle in your head, but that's kind of where you are playing. So you kind of have to be aware of that scenario, aware of that that setting and kind of play according to the crowd. So a lot of crowd pleaser stuff, a lot of bait commercial things that I probably would never play if I had the ability to play in the nightclubs that I obviously do want to end up playing in the future. But I still think it's a good way to kind of learn how to read a crowd, to learn how to DJ, in general on the ones and twos, and to just be able to put together a coherent, good set. Because I'm adamant, if you do think you are a decent DJ of any sort of ilk, you should be able to put together a decent playlist. And what I'm basically doing, without any kind of, without kind of being too self-deprecating, I'm essentially like a DJ playlist where I do have the ability also to maybe, add a couple of songs here and there, but that's what I'm doing. So that kind of works with that regard. So I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait to do it. It's been a long time coming, having 2 sets back to back. Next week's Friday, so I shall report back when that happens and what my review is, but I'm aiming to absolutely kill it and smash it. I'm preparing the set now, I'm putting stuff together, I'm thinking about things to do, and I always try and approach it like this. I always try and approach these things like, oh, imagine I was playing at flipping Hop Tosse, imagine I was playing at Fold, imagine I was playing at flipping Berghain or Panorama Bar. How would I approach it? And I'd approach it the same way that I'm doing now. I'm thinking about stuff I want to play, I'm already downloading things, I'm preparing playlists and taking it serious, even though it's going to be in some pub somewhere in the middle of flipping Hackney, where most of the people there won't want me to be there. They'll get annoyed when I start playing. They'll be spending more time eating their burgers and their chicken wings and shit, drinking their beers, and not really giving a single F about me. And I'll be halfway through a little decent bashment set, and they'll come up to me and ask me, oh, have you got Rihanna, have you got Beyonce? There'll be loads of track requests and stuff, but it's still fun regardless. It's still quite a good opportunity to kind of flex and do your thing and see how that works. So looking forward to that when that happens. Obviously looking forward to that when that happens. So randomly today, I caught up on a bit of the podcast drama going on at the moment. There's some pod wars happening, and unfortunately they're happening between 2 podcasts that I kind of used to listen to, or one in particular I used to listen to religiously, and that was the Joe Budden podcast. They're having a little bit of a tit for tat because some time ago Joe Budden split up with his original kind of crewmates in Rory and More, and they went off to do their own podcast called New Rory and More, and ever since then there's been a lot of bad blood between them for various reasons. But I guess at the crux of it is basically they had a falling out about money, about ownership, about maybe credit, and just maybe feeling like as if they had some level, maybe of ownership is probably the best way to go about it, because the epic sort of thing to come out of that argument was there was an occasion where Joe was arguing with Moore, one of his former co-hosts and people that kind of helped to, make that Joe Budden podcast what it is. And he said something along the lines of, the podcast business is none of your business, to Moore, which you can understand if you're somebody who really legitimately feels like you played a big role in getting that show where it was. It could be something that could kind of hurt you, especially when it's coming from somebody you consider a friend, a brother, and whatnot. And for whatever reason, Joe wanted to make it very clear that he doesn't care about friendship when it comes to business. Whatever's on the paper is on the paper. He dealt with it the way he wants to deal with it. And for myself, being a big fan of the pod and kind of believing all the propaganda and all the kind of myths and narratives people put out about themselves, as a fan, I kind of took it a little bit. I took it badly, which means I kind of didn't listen to any of their shows after the fact. I kind of tried to champion New Warrior more, but I kind of got bored of their show. I tried to listen to Joe Budden podcast, but then I kind of got annoyed hearing Joe Budden's voice because it reminded me that he kind of, basically, in a weird way, kind of effed over his flipping friends, and I couldn't really hear or see him the same again. So in actuality, it kind of damaged, I think, both shows. But they've been throwing shots at each other continuously for the last, I feel like, few months. Every single time, it usually feels like Mo was the one that's probably most offended, because he was basically more of Joe's friend, and kind of Rory came along later on down the line. They were still obviously all close friends, but Mo definitely has known Joe longer, so maybe he kind of feels it way more. Anyway, they've been having a tit for tat, and it's been quite funny to listen to. So I'm going to play a couple of the clips here, courtesy of Chick's Move here on YouTube. So definitely check out his channel, because he's the one who updates all of this stuff and prepares all the clips and does it really, really well. Chick's Moves on YouTube. So I'm going to play a couple of the clips that feature some of the back and forth between these guys. It's been absolutely incredible. So let's just, well, I think incredible in terms of funny. So let's kind of play the clip and see what he has to say and what happened. Oh, and just to begin with this, by the way, to give you some context, this whole argument movement started because of the flipping complex end of year list. Those end of year lists, honestly, they do more damage than good to the culture. Everyone always kind of falls out and argues over these flipping power ranking end of year type of list type of things. Joe obviously started feeling himself about the list. New Rory and more then got on their podcast to discuss the list, and when they got to number one, they had to discuss their former boss and friend and employer and co-host Joe Budden. So let's see what they have to say. Let me skip ahead a little bit here.
I don't want to waste my time.
Skip ahead a little bit, bear with me a
time and
second,
energy
folks.
on a very biased list, and the list that was put together by complex employees. That's people.
Slow this. Why is it doing this? There you go. It's playing now.
Don't. Akademiks came in at number 2 and Charlemagne was number 3. Now, Rory and Moore was not on this list. If you guys ask me, I know some of you guys do not like Rory and Moore. I personally feel like they should have been there somewhere in the 20 to 25 range. They went through this list on their Patreon. You guys can go check it out. I thought it was interesting what they had to say about Joe Budden being number 1. Here's what they said.
Oh, of course.
Look at that.
The thief. The cat burglar. Big integrity. Big integrity.
Big Tech?
Oh,
Big
man. Look at the cat
The
burglar.
1-2 punch of Big Tech.
Look at the cat burglar. Staring off into the next house he wants to run in. Big cat. That's Big Cat.
Is that a Miri?
Quiet as a mouse.
I believe that this person belongs in the top 5. So I'm not mad at them being number 1.
Look how short
I'm
his
keeping
brief
my
is.
non-bias the way I have this entire time. I didn't want to defend Adam 22, nor do I want to defend this gentleman. But he should be in the top 5.
Why didn't they put it right up on him?
They barely give him anything.
And that's based off what hip-hop media is now.
For more on the
So I'm not sure if I'm giving a compliment right now by saying I think these people should be in the top 5.
Ex-rapper to pundit career path. Wow.
The most abrasive commentator in hip-hop.
I think they meant another. Okay. Mm-hmm.
I mean, this could be the rollout for bringing the show back.
Yeah.
1-2 punch. That's on there too.
You want to join Carisha?
Nah, she belong in number 7 though. We're not gonna do that.
No, wait.
I'm jacking Carisha.
You
at
can't
number 7.
jack
She's a
Carisha
bubble
at
tea?
7.
Yeah, I'm jacking that. That's a great spot for her to land.
She's a Cinderella that gets to the final 4.
Lucky number 7. That's a good number. That's a good number. Like, you know what I mean? I'm
This
jacking
list is absolute insanity.
Yeah.
that's
Terrible.
very
Oh my
easy.
god.
I think that's what they
the
want.
integrity cracks at like number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? They got rid of it immediately.
Yeah.
They let you know right there, like, all right, we threw all that shit out the window that we said we was about with this list. It's not real. It doesn't exist.
Yo, but go back to
That was
the
a good
criteria again.
That was a bar, right?
Yeah.
It was great.
What was the bar?
Obviously, they were going to have Joe
So you heard that, and then of course Joe went back and fired back at them. I thought his reply was quite funny also. Let me play that.
And you won't just be looking to take the next check from somewhere. To whom this may concern, this is not even on page 1 of the manual.
This is a thing. I don't like the guy and I don't listen to his content anymore. You get some of my nerves and stuff, and he's clearly extremely toxic and has a pattern of falling out with all of his friends when it comes to business and just falling out with people overall, and does none of the work to kind of repair that relationship or those relationships, or to basically work on himself so it doesn't happen again. It's just what he is, isn't it? It's just, he's always going to keep that flipping same circle of nonsense happening again and again. But one thing you can't deny about Joe, he's flipping entertaining, isn't he? To whom it may concern. Like, why not just say the guy's name? Why all this nonsense? Why all this bloviating? Why all this flipping pompous nonsense? Just say the people's names who you're talking about. We know who you're talking about, guy.
Because you niggas ain't in the bookstore. Instead of critiquing people's placement on this list, we need more critiquing on why you're not on it.
Fair.
To everyone not on it, shut the fuck up. There's some steps that you niggas have missed. To whom it may concern, stop holding the microphone. Like if I'm just giving out podcast advice, it's certain niggas, y'all can't speak to me, y'all didn't do the work yet. You didn't go in the bookstore. Hire the editors.
Lols.
Get people to help. Invest in the staff. Pay the staff. Get more staff.
Like he says stuff, when people say stuff like this, it makes no sense, in it, right? Stop holding the mic. to be fair, the holding the mic thing meme could be just the same thing could be applied to him shouting at an empty chair when he fires his close friends from a podcast they helped build together, but then he now, becomes, flipping tyrant man and decides to flipping kick them all off because they're there to ask about the accounting, or they want a better idea about where the money is going that they're flipping investing into it, or just how they're going to get paid, regardless of how you think the cookie crumbles on this and who was right or wrong. I find that meme pretty funny, to be fair. Him talking about them holding the mics and them basically digging at him for being a 44-year-old man who was screaming at some empty chairs and couldn't just call his friends and sort it out like an adult.
Stop check chasing. Stop doing the bare minimum and expecting that to yield results. You niggas are the bare minimum boys. You niggas get that bag, put it in your pocket, and do the bare minimum. I don't want to hear none of you niggas talk about nobody in here. Hey, to whom it may concern. Because niggas...
Again, to be fair to Joe, he has done quite well in investing the money back into the pod to kind of make it better. Like, I think everybody can agree, and myself included, even though I don't listen to the pod anymore and I've, kind of turned off of Joe Budden ever since the breakup. But we can't argue with the fact that the Joe Budden podcast legitimately is the best sounding podcast I've ever heard in terms of audio wise. Like, Parks is a little bit of a cuck for Joe Budden, but let's not deny also he's a hell of an engineer. His CV is extensive. Just do your Googles about what he's done and how he's contributed to hip hop overall. But the way that he audio engineers that flipping podcast, it sounds amazing, incredible through your ears. It legitimately is one of the best produced podcasts out there, legit. And especially when they're combining the video stuff, the live streaming they've been doing. I've been seeing clips of that. That looks pretty cool. It does it pretty well. But I also think it's interesting that he's mentioning a few times the issue about money. Because if you're not aware, when these guys broke up with Joe, they then went on to kind of do their own podcast. And through just, how flipping, the universe is a flipping cruel mistress. Somehow they ended up landing a deal where they basically got paid allegedly somewhere in the region of $10 million for their podcast, essentially to join a network, or no, to join a particular network. I don't know, whatever it may be, network or service, whatever it may be. Somebody paid them $10 million or something around that kind of mark. And obviously the whole, if you believe the narrative that they fell out initially because of money and Joe basically thinking that he's worth a certain amount and he didn't get it, and the beef about the Spotify deal and the accounting for the guys that he basically said weren't contributing much or didn't bring much to the table, and that's why he didn't feel like they were deserving of certain things and he felt like he was a boss, for them to go on and get a $10 million deal, that kind of would sting you to think a little bit, especially when you don't have your deal yourself or you're holding out for a particular number. So him mentioning it a couple of times feels like it still stings him, even though I'm sure he believes they do the bare minimum and they could be doing way more to improve the quality of the show. But I still think the fact that they got the money doing the bare minimum is what's really kind of, got him hot and bothered if you're Joe Budden. Because it's like, how are these guys really bad at what they do? I'm the one, quote unquote, giving it up. I'm the one creating content, trying to be viral, saying, crazy stuff and providing outlandish hot takes episode after episode just in the order to kind of jump on that algorithm and whatnot. And these guys are doing the quote unquote bare minimum and they get in the bag. That's where I think the problem kind of lies. But again, another reply. So he said that, and then Rory and Moore obviously had to flip and spin the block and reply back to him. Here's what they said when he declared them to be the bare minimum boys.
Some people sounding smart. People
good weekend, though. Yeah, good weekend. Felt good. It was good weather for the most part,
I'll make this actually quick and brief because I know there's a lot of people that are here just for the other response. Let's dead the narratives that were happening this weekend. I'm not even talking about them over there, just the narratives that exist. Outside of maybe 2 or 3 jokes since we put our response video out 2 years ago, I have not said a fucking word.
Mo has.
Matter of fact, if anything, I've been objective and complimentary in a lot of places.
Mo
hasn't. If you look at that clip, I even said you deserve to be on that fucking list.
By
the way, I'm talking to Joe. Hey. I don't do this who we made concern bullshit and subs. You're fucking 45. Talk to people. Hey. Don't bleep my name anymore on the podcast. Shut the fuck up. I told you the last time I saw you, leave me alone. Oof. And I have not said a fucking word. I've been nothing but kind, polite. Anytime someone brings you up publicly, I don't say bad words. Stop talking about me. Leave me the fuck alone. It's getting obsessive. This is his third press run in 2 years. And this last one, his whole press run was trying to tell people that he does not talk about us. Your press run was talking about us, saying you don't talk about us. You just went on your third press run in 2 years. I have not been on one press run talking about your ass. I did my response video, and I left it the fuck alone.
You did.
I didn't. More, it's like I didn't.
Don't talk about lists, right? You should shut the fuck up if you're not on the list to talk about a list, right?
You know what's funny about the list though? Just to touch on the list stuff. It's funny because there was a time where Joe would get annoyed at not being on certain lists, and it would create viral content, and it would be like a good topic for discussion on the pod, and it has some good back and forths. Lists are just so toxic. Now he's on the list and he's number one. He still finds a way to be upset in some way. What an incredible good dude, isn't it? What an incredible dude. I absolutely love it. What an incredible dude.
Your YouTube popped from you talking about a list you weren't on. And we know how that ended.
My arms are just tired. I need a mic stand. Like, I don't know about you, but like, yes, we have mic stands, but I think we need more mic stands. We need like 10 more mics.
Yeah, no, I understand.
No, I am Sin. I agree with you, I am Sin, and I think that's my kind of roundup point in this. And you're right. So I am Sin says they're mediocre and there is no life to the podcast. We don't know anything that's going on. It's all in the air. Rory and Mo needed that. This Joe keeps giving them shine. He should just stop. I personally dislike Joe Budden, but that man pods like he really goes in. Yeah, for sure. I dislike the guy too because, again, it's my fault. It's not anything to do with him. I just dislike him because I bought into the narrative, or I bought into the gas, or I bought into the perception that he was for the creators, right? And he was going to do this thing where he was this rapper who didn't get who didn't get the acclaim his talent deserved when he was rapping. He was always overlooked. Always the groom and never the bride. I don't know, whatever that term is, right? Always a bridesmaid and never the bride, whatever it may be. And then he finally gets on the podcast thing and it becomes a thing that kind of blows up for him. He then becomes an important person in culture. People want to go to him. He has really good hot takes. The podcast is fun. It provides free 3 hour plus, amazing content that you can kind of listen to 2 times a week, plus whatever they do on Patreon. Amazing. But just the idea that I bought into how he was presenting himself is what kind of turned me off. And I'm just the kind of person where if I don't like you as a human being, it's very difficult for me to like your content and listen to it. I'm not going to make a kick and a fuss about it. I'm not going to write articles about it or try and counsel you. I just will stop listening. So I stopped listening to it. Cool. But let's also be real. The guy's a fucking podcaster. He can podcast really well. He's really good at ranting and raving, giving unnecessary over-the-top hot takes, inserting himself in drama, creating a drama, and just generally being a funny dude on podcasts. He does it really, really well. No one can deny that. And one thing we can't deny also, even if we're fans of New Rory and more, the podcast is boring, bruh. Compared to Joe Budden podcast is boring. But also Joe Budden's annoying and the other guests or the other hosts on his show aren't that great. So if anything, both groups of people have suffered. Rory and Moore need Joe. Joe needs Rory and Moore. That's the actual unfortunate truth of it. They've both been able to succeed, without each other now. They've both basically proved that they can do it, but they need each other. Both of them need each other to create a best podcast. That's what actually makes it great. But unfortunately, that boat has now sailed. Too much messy stuff has been said. And me personally, I'm the type of person, especially if I was your friend and you're saying this stuff about me in public, if I see you in real life, it's on sight. Like, we're going to throw hands. I may lose, right? It may end up embarrassing, but we're going to be punching up each other and it's never going to go back to normal again. It's kind of over. But for sure, they've basically lost out. Both sides of it, because I feel like the pod was way stronger when they were together. Now they're separate, both been diluted, they both got their good parts, both got their wrong parts, but overall, that guy Joe Budden knows how to podcast. Let's not lie about that, but he's kind of a bit of a, insufferable guy to sort of kind of listen to, which maybe is a quintessential ingredient of being a good podcaster. You kind of have to be a little bit insufferable. I think of the guy Chris Black on the flipping How Long Gone podcast I like. He's incredibly insufferable and somewhat unlikable, but the podcast is flames. I listen to it every fucking week. It drops 3 times a week. I don't miss a pod unless the guest is super annoying. So maybe that's part of the reason why certain shows work, why certain shows don't work. You kind of have to be a little bit annoying, a little bit hard to kind of like, and then people would tune in to kind of hate listen, and then maybe you can turn them over to be fans. Who knows? Anyway, going back to the response.
Just get a few more mic stands in here.
Should have kept your library card.
Yeah, that's what I should have did. But I'm glad you addressed that.
No, it's not even like, I may even sound frustrated and upset, and I'm totally cool with sounding that way because I really have been quiet about this entire shit. That's what's making it even cornier. Like, this started.
It should have just been said no. You should have just been honest and said no. I have felt frustrated and upset because I do feel frustrated and upset. Joe was my friend at one point. We were really good friends. We built this, which I thought at the time we were really good friends. We built this amazing podcast that really changed all of our lives. And I really thought we had the opportunity to really kind of rewrite the kind of narrative of the playbook on how people do business in this industry and really kind of do good by each other and actually grow this into a bigger thing, a multimedia thing, whatever it may be. And it hurt when my friend, who I consider the best friend or somebody I consider very close, essentially kind of didn't do right by me business-wise, and it ended. You should have been honest and said that, which is why I'm replying the way that I am. That would have made it more thing, because the one thing you can't say about Joe is that he didn't really approach them in the most compassionate way when they kind of aired their grievances. He immediately went into defense mode, immediately started attacking them, and went into kind of I don't know you type of stuff and said some crazy shit. So maybe being vulnerable and saying, yeah, you actually did hurt me the way you treated me, and that's why I kind of take this a bit more personal than some things I did, and this is the way it is. But hey, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yelling at an empty chair that I shouldn't come to your son's birth after there's a full episode of you talking about how much that meant to you. One story has not changed at all. One continues to change. I never took it personal. I never said wild shit. I never even went in on your business. I left it alone after that response video. So leave me the fuck alone. And
had we not spoken about that, we would have been hating.
That's where you can't win.
Now that we spoke about it, we hating. I don't hate nobody. I don't pay attention to niggas enough to hate niggas.
You just gotta be honest too. If you hate somebody too, just say you hate them. This whole I don't hate people, I don't say, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. These guys clearly do hate him too. I'm sure it's better now because they've got a $10 million deal. They're thriving, doing their own thing. They've created their own little ecosystem and kind of, fan base. They sold out their tour, did really well on it. I was meant to go to the one in London, but I kind of got lazy and didn't go. They're doing pretty well, both camps. But let's be honest. You hate him. It's okay to hate him.
Like that's why I hate when I get drug into this shit, because it's like I don't care about none of these dudes, man. Respect and love to all of y'all. I'm just saying facts are facts. That's it. Let's deal with the facts. But we not mad. Rory and I are happy. Our staff is happy. Everybody's having a great time. We have mic stands. We have mic stands. We have equipment. Like, I don't want people to think that we don't have these are all like false, just moving the goalpost shit. Like, cut it out, man, with the bullshit. Stop, bro. You not the nigga that know. You're not the fucking the master of podcasting. I know niggas you call you the podfather and you let that shit circle jerk you and you came on yourself.
Combat Jack called himself that, and then he passed away, and then you started.
Yeah, like stop it with that bullshit, man. Cut it out. It's corny, bro. Like this is corny. I gotta take 7 showers a day now because my name is next to yours in the mud.
Jesus Christ.
Like, you know what I mean? I don't want to do this shit, man. Like, look what y'all got me.
Don't I remember a rapper saying that? I had to take 17 showers. Who said that? Was it Big Sean? Some rapper said that about somebody. Was it Big Sean said that about that girl that unfortunately died in that pool? I think she may have self-expired herself. I think some rapper said that about somebody. Like, I had to take 17 showers. Something really grim. I was like, whoa, about their girl. No, I think it was Kanye. It might have been Kanye. Kanye may have said that about Amber Rose. Like something about showers or something. I remember that line.
What are you doing? The same thing I said to Joe and everyone else. Leave me alone. Don't talk about me. I don't talk about y'all. Leave me the fuck alone. I know we're creating content. People are pod wars, all this shit. I'm talking just to y'all in real life. It just happens to be on a fucking podcast. This is not a war or a back and forth.
Yeah, big up Natasha Ski.
I'm going to shut up, and we can all move the fuck on and do whatever we want with our lives. Let the fans talk all day. But y'all Shut up. Shut up. I'm going to do the same. Shut up.
My arm is still tired.
Wow, Rory sounds really angry, really, really shaky. Right? Really angry, really shaky. Clearly, again, this is personal. It touches them because they were all good friends at once. I just don't know why they're pretending like they weren't close friends and that they're not bothered. I'm not hating. No, you can hate your best friend now turned enemy because you were once best friends and you didn't ever envision a time when you weren't going to be friends anymore, especially in the way that it ended. It's fine to be upset about it. Anyway, finally, Joe then decides to respond and kind of ethered them, to be fair. As much as I don't like Joe, he absolutely destroyed Rory and Moore in this response. And I hope it kind of ends now because it's kind of getting corny, kind of getting lame. But this response is brutal at the end. This is Joe Budden essentially eviscerating these guys.
So, if y'all think I ain't getting my money's worth out of this, now that I'm prepared. But I'm not dissing nobody. I felt like last pod, when I was speaking about just podcasting and the landscape in general, a lot of podcasters out there were able to pull from that and get help from that. Now, Hit Dogs holler, and Hitman holler, and
Hey, big up.
Kanye said it on Breakfast Club about Amber Kim.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's the one. Yeah, big up Natashkian and Green Ghost Media. Big up Green Ghost Media. Thank you for the 220 super chat. I appreciate you. Yeah, that was Kanye. Yeah, I remembered it because I remember that being like a really mean thing. Kanye is a really, really sly, mean general. By the way, very sly, mean general. I remember once because he says a lot of mean stuff, considering how emotionally fragile and mentally fragile he is in general, and how just sensitive he is. Right, he seems to get very butthurt about the things people say about him, but he actually is very mean to people. Remember when he said to Wiz Khalifa, "Cool pants," right? That kind of was a meme that he was getting ripped to shreds about because at that time Wiz Khalifa was known for having his t-shirt off and wearing jazzy pants, right? And then he said that stuff about Amber. He then, obviously saying, I had to take 1,000,000 showers after you before I got to Kim. Then he said the thing about Kim's mum, calling her Chris Jong-un. That was absolutely crazy. And then what else he said really made him mean? Oh, he said something about Big Sean. And Big Sean during the Drinks Champ stuff. Basically calling him washed and no one's bumping your stuff in the club and we don't rate you, your albums suck. Like just crazy shit. Like Kanye is very mean. A sly, mean girl. Anyway, let's continue Joe Budden eviscerating Rory and Mo in his response.
Holla if you count.
Holla if you hear me.
But if it don't apply, you kind of just let that shit fly. You just let it fly. I want to take this time to clear some things up really quickly and we'll move on. I want to define the term press run because we're largely responsible with introducing it and y'all using it wrong.
Uh-oh.
A press run is when you set up a string of press for the purpose of promoting something.
Introducing a product.
You have to have something to promote. If you just pop up somewhere, that's not a press run. And Bear has been saying that for some time now. I totally disagree with that.
Did you catch that? He started calling Rory Bear because they're the bare minimum boys. Get it? Rory's Bear, Mo's minimum. Hilarious.
Bear.
Who's
Bear, you are mistaken. When I show up to these platforms, these people just are thrilled to have me. I'm not there promoting something, and I certainly wouldn't be there to just promote you. Bear, you are wrong in that. And I'm not your enemy. I'm not the enemy, for once. I ain't spoke to niggas in years. Actually, you about to make me go in there.
I saw it.
You about to make me go in there. You make me mad now. Yeah, I'm not anybody's enemy. I ain't spoke to nobody in years. I'm just offering constructive criticism by watching and just seeing what's going on. Now, one of the last times that I saw Bear, we met up over there at Onview,
and he needed a ride to his car. So he got in my car, and I was driving to the garage, and he said, "Hey, man, you know we got close to that 10 million, right? I mean, we didn't get that 10, but we got close." And I just nodded my head, "All right, Bear. Like, why you even tell me? It's none of my business." And he said, "Because I feel like I want you to know." And I said, "All right, well, you're lying." And he said, "How you know?" I said, "Because you're set." Not a $10 million set. And then shortly after that, we stopped speaking, and then y'all wasn't at the set no more. And I'll admit, I want to know why.
He's so observant and so petty. That's really, really funny. But if you do watch the new Rory and Moore show, you would know the video portion of the show. They were recording it at one point at this set. I think they're signed, again, I don't know their business too tough, but I think they may be signed to like Sirius or something, one of those kind of platforms, right? And they got basically allegedly got somewhere right in the region of 10 million, and they got loads of press written about it. They were in Deadline, Variety, all that good stuff. So it was a legit offer. It was a legit deal. They got signed. I don't know what number of years it was, whatever it may be. But I guess part of the deal was that they filmed this really cool set. And for whatever reason, the set kind of went away. At the time, they said it was because Rory's dog was pissing and shitting all over the place, because I think he got that dog new, or it was a, you know, whatever. It was a pup at the time. So that made sense at the time to me. And also once they switched temporarily to doing it at Rory's place, or his new gaff, me, myself included, and other people that are fans of the show would say, I left a comment a couple of times saying, the show is much better now he's filming it at home. It just had a nicer vibe. It just felt warmer. They had their socks off. They were chilling. You know, just, I don't know, just something relaxed about it. Maybe there is something to be said for going to a studio and kind of clocking in and clocking out. There is something about that. I think some people kind of have that kind of way of kind of working. I know Eminem does that when he records music. Eminem is a kind of 9 to 5 guy, they say, right? Where he turns up at 9 and leaves at 5. If you don't come into the studio between those hours, you have to just come the next day. He kind of treats it like he's going to the office. So maybe there is something to be said about going to the studio, turning on the mics, and then kind of turning up and be, okay, cool, we're in podcast time. Let's give it up. Let's be the flipping content boys. But I also think it's not fair to do that to New Rory and Moore and their show, because I feel like their show, even though I say it's boring sometimes, the reason why it's boring is because they purposely don't want to do that. They clearly want to be chill, relaxed, talk about what they want to talk about, and just kick it. And that's what they do. They don't want to, quote unquote, give it up all the time and be looking for and be flipping hot tech McGee out here, which is what Joe Budden and a few of these other guys do, where they just try to create hot takes for the sake of creating hot takes, just because it's, quote unquote, their job. It's not really. You know what I mean? You've got podcasts should allow you to talk about what you want to talk about. So I don't know. I just think in general it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird to kind of, have that kind of stipulation on them. But also I think it's hilarious how he's pointing out these type of things that we all kind of noticed but didn't really say in a negative way. But of course, Joe is going to say it in a negative way.
You see what you started? Why y'all blaming me? This is about to go bad. Go ahead.
No, it ain't. I ain't saying nothing wrong.
I know. You have a way of not saying anything
I'm talking
wrong,
to podcasters because Bear and Minimum have done nothing but put on a master class in how to lose fucking value. So I'm not talking to y'all. I'm talking to future podcasters to learn from your mistakes. So I wanted to know why y'all left that little studio.
Stop, no, damn.
Yo, let me say this real quick.
And you ended up in y'all house.
Shit.
So then you started recording next to a graveyard, and I took a moment to laugh because I love when God and me see eye to eye on things. But
it's a little bit low for him to talk about God. Joe has scummed over and fucked over a lot of people. If anybody's owed some sort of karmic retribution, it'll be him. If anything, he's also gotten away with a lot because of, the content game. He goes on fan base. You can kind of be uncancelable. But to say that that's God's way of kind of, hey, big up Green Ghost Media.
Rory and Mal at home feels like classic JBP at parks.
Exactly. Big up Green Ghost Media for the 220 super chat. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, for sure. Definitely, you're right. And I don't think it's a bad thing. They switched it to the home for whatever reason, and it works. I don't really have an issue with it. The main issue people are having with the new Rory and Moore show is that it's allegedly boring. I'm saying it's boring just because I don't like what they talk about sometimes, but I don't think it's boring in terms of the way they're approaching it. They decided they don't want to be hot take McGee's. They don't want to get on there and gossip and talk about shade room stuff and, you know, speculate about things like other places do, like No Jumper and all these sort of places and whatnot. They want to just like talk about cool shit, talk about stuff that they're into and just kick it. And for the most part, it does that job well. I don't think it's a crime if you don't want to be a chatty patty. But, you know, when the top guys in that list of the hip hop power rankings, essentially, if I think about it, I think the top 5 people are all extreme chatty patties in their own way. So I guess because of that, they think to be a good podcast and to be in that kind of community, in that kind of culture, in that kind of scene of hip hop, you kind of have to be the one who wants to talk about mess, who wants to continue to talk about Christian Rock and flipping Blueface and what's Diddy doing and what Drake meant here and what Ye said here and what like it's just nonsense. There needs to be a show that exists within the hip hop landscape. That there needs to be shows that exist that just talk about the music, that just break down albums actually and break down songs, talk about singles they like, talk about what direction the artist went in and didn't go in, about music videos in general, and what their mindset might have been when they put the project together. And it should be shows that talk about the gossip and the nonsense stuff and the ratchet stuff. And it should be shows that just, you know, a kind of good background listen. And I think New Rory and More is a good background listen, but Joe's going to say what he's going to say. Anyway, let's end this bit and we can move on. This is the last few bits of Joe destroying them.
But the problem with that is, I said to myself, now wait a goddamn second. All right. Oh, the nigga said, well, we not in the building no more because they didn't like how the dog was acting around here. And I said, that sounds familiar. But then I scratched my head. I said, wait a minute, Bear. You mean to tell me that these niggas gave you $10 million?
This is funny.
And said, hey, your dog can't come up here no more. And you stayed home with the dog.
Oh, what the
He really should do stand-up. This is one person who actually should do stand-up. That was a legitimately good joke.
I didn't know he was going there with this, guys.
Ouch, that was kind of petty.
Anyway, cool. He did that, right? So it is what it is. In the end, just to conclude it all, I honestly do think both shows, as Brendan Schaub would say, have suffered. Both shows have suffered. And I think both shows would contribute from both camps of people being friends again and reuniting. Because the Joe Budden podcast, even though Joe was able to kind of bounce back from having his best friends and co-hosts, you know, basically kick rocks, and he fired one and the other one left and it was all kind of messy, he was able to kind of bounce back and kind of fill the slots in with the other guys who are kind of keeping it going. I don't listen to it anymore. I've not listened to a single full show since the breakup. Since the last time we started ranting into a chair, I kind of just, you know, timed out of it. New Rory I might listen to here and there, but Joe's got to be given credit for, you know, basically bouncing back and allowing the show to be successful and whatnot, and not allowing it, making sure it was still successful. And the new Rory and More guys, Rory and More, have to be given credit too, because everybody kind of counted them out, myself included, thought that they needed Joe in order to survive out here, but they were able to prove that they can do it on their own. They went out, secured a bag, sold out shows, have their own community of fans that love what they do, and it's smashing and it works really well for them. So big up all of those guys considering, but I would prefer if they kind of came back together and just made a show, because I think separately they're not the guys that they once were, in my opinion. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? Anyway, moving on from that one. Moving on, let's talk about this. So, news regarding No Jumper. And this is something I just want to talk about in the pod because I thought it was flipping hilarious. So, I'm not sure some of you guys know, and again, this is like podcast, reality TV show type of nonsense news. But I thought this was hilarious because I feel like I've kind of would be in a similar situation if this occurred to me. So, it looks like House Phone and Illa are now broken up, unfortunately. And I think a lot of people on the No Jumper subreddit were guessing this. And again, credit to those guys for being on point. And I think it just goes to show, when you pod enough times and you live stream enough times, you put yourself out there in public enough times, it's very difficult for people not to get who you are. Like, they're gonna understand you and they're gonna be able to kind of call you out on your bullshit. And I think a lot of fans on these subreddits, even though the kind of podcasters hate it, they are really aware and knowledgeable of how people act. And I think the guys kind of called it out on that sub ages ago that most likely Illa and House Phone wouldn't last the long run because, you know, they're just kind of two different people. And I was thinking, no, not really. I think you don't need to be similar to sort of attract each other, opposites attract, all that kind of good stuff. They seemed like they got along really well. And, you know, Illa was kind of doing well by House Phone and kind of being a good support person to him when he was going through his struggles. And obviously his mum passing away, RIP to Mama House Phone and whatnot. So he just thought, you know, it would work out. There's no reason why this can't work out. But over time, it felt like the strain was kind of too much to bear. And now I guess Illa has confirmed now, courtesy of Community Clips First here. And I'm going to play a clip from the AceBoyPun show where she kind of elaborates on why they ended up breaking up. But I'm sure some of you guys who are fans of the show can kind of understand and guess why Illa would decide to break up with House Phone. But here she is explaining that she's now single.
Very not all the way ready to talk about it yet. But
that's personal.
We respect it. But what I will say is that, you know, sometimes God puts you in people's lives to help them, you know, get through certain situations and to help them progress. And it's up to those people to decide whether they're going to take that for granted, whether they're going to disrespect it, whatever they're going to do. And sometimes people just, you know, fuck off their blessings and do whatever they want to do. And so, with that being said, you know, it came time for, you know, me to make that realization that, you know, I'm not, it's a wrap. It's over with. So, you know, that's that on that for right now.
Ejecto-cedo, cuz.
So she's obviously upset and clearly still going through it and whatnot, but they've clearly split up. And I think it was another clip that I'm not going to play because I can't be bothered and it's a little bit sad, where she storms off and cries. But then she follows it up and kind of clarifies why it basically happened. And here is Illa on Pun's, AceBoyPun's, I think, ladies show, basically talking about why, alluding to the reason why her and House Phone are not together anymore.
I couldn't even tell y'all everything if I really wanted to, because it's just not y'all business. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not your business. Who would I be? I would be no different than that weird ass nigga over there that did the weird ass shit in the first
Adam
place.
22.
If I stood and did all that. But, you know, I just, it is what it is. There are just certain, you know, life choices and you know, activities and things like that. Certain things that I've never done and I'm not going to do. And I can't, you know, partake, nor can I deal with, you know, any type of dishonesty or betrayal for real. So, you know, it is what it is.
So, my theory is, most likely, because House Phone's a party boy and he's just known to be a serial, unreliable type of person who just flakes on friends and whatnot and just does what he wants to do and whatever it may be. And I know how that life is, because essentially if you're kind of in the depths, in the grips of partying and doing drugs and drinking a lot, one of the things that you end up doing is being an unreliable friend and an unreliable partner. So you put plans together, you promise this, you promise that, and it falls through because guess what? You're recovering from whatever you're recovering from, you're hungover, you're in pain, you're tired, all these things happen. So you end up kind of destroying and damaging your actual relationships with real people because of that lifestyle you chose to have. So when I look at House Phone, I see a lot of that in him. And I know that's basically most likely what he's doing, or it could be other things. But from my guess on the outside, I would assume, because from what I know, Illa is sober. From what I know, Illa may have a child, so she's a grown woman in that respect because she's had a kid, she's sober, she's kind of got a career where she's doing what she wants to do in music and whatnot, and kind of knows where she kind of wants to go, and bloody blah, blah, blah. So a pretty much, you'd say, level-headed, mature lady with a good head of her shoulders. And then she's got a boyfriend like House Phone at the time, who I think is pretty immature for his age. I think House Phone may be 30, but he kind of acts like he's 21. You know, people could say he's a functioning drug addict, but I wouldn't go that far. He's essentially what I would describe to be a party boy, because I know I have those periods in my life where that kind of happens. But you can imagine their two lifestyles don't combine in the slightest. He wants to still kind of rap. He's still kind of living a somewhat bachelor Lothario type of lifestyle in some way. He got this brand that's popping and smashing off a all over the place. And I can imagine a scenario where, you know, Illa comes back from a long day work, you know, at work, in the studio, streaming, whatnot, doing life, and then deciding to come back home and hang out with her boyfriend. She comes back and he's, you know, blasting music on the speaker. You know, there may be some paraphernalia on the flipping table, alluding to some class A or class B substances. And then she's just thinking, what the hell is going on here? I don't even want to do this stuff, and this is my guy already bent out of shape doing what he's doing and whatnot, and their lifestyles just didn't match or meld in the slightest. So I'm not surprised that she decided, you know what, it's a wrap, cancel Christmas, as Smack will say, and it's over. I want to do my own thing. But there's also this clip that people are sharing on the No Jumper subreddit that's really interesting also. It's a clip taken from another ladies' night on AceBoyPun's channel, where someone asked a question and says, oh, what happened to the last stream that Housephone, because Housephone's got a channel and a podcast he does called Biggest Bros, and they did a live stream where they went to one of those haunted houses things. And in the live stream, there's a clip, because I remember I watched the part of the video. I didn't watch the entire thing. I watched kind of halfway, but in the beginning, you see them kind of outside this haunted house thing hanging out, and then the camera sort of pans to the parking lot, and you see Housephone on the phone screaming and shouting at somebody, like having a, you know, a kind of an argument, you imagine. And then I guess people were assuming it was Illa he was arguing with, but I guess it wasn't now, because she now clarifies it wasn't her on the phone. So this might be the genesis of the issue. Maybe Housephone was playing, you know, away from home, so to speak, and that was a person he was arguing with on the phone, which may have led inadvertently to them breaking up, which is flipping hilarious if you think about it. Like, you get caught on a live stream arguing and it goes up and it kind of ends up ruining your relationship in real life. Absolutely hilarious.
The BBE escape room had HP raging.
That's an escape room, not haunted house.
Say it again.
Escape room.
Illa, why you ruin the BBE escape room? Had Housephone raging.
News flash. That was not me. That was not me at all.
What are we talking about here? Ruin the BBE escape room. What is that?
We're gonna talk about that? Biggest Bros had a live stream earlier today. They did an escape room, and it was a little hectic. There was cameras should have probably have gotten turned around or cut or something, because
muted something.
Yeah, there was a conversation happening that probably shouldn't have been picked up on camera, but that was not me on the other end of that phone. So
you didn't ruin it?
Nope, I sure did not.
Anyway, so as people are saying in the chat also, their relationship just never recovered from Adam22 flipping baiting up Housephone's business. Ever since that moment, it was never going to work, I don't think. I just can't imagine, you know, a black woman being that comfortable with hearing their fella may have, you know, had sexual relations with, you know, somebody that may or may not be trans. I just don't think there's a lot of black girls out there that would be cool with it. It's just one of those things, unfortunately, culturally, whatever, societally, racially, whoever knows. So that was the thing that essentially kind of led to the death by 1,000 cuts. And the relationship was never going to recover after that. So essentially this is kind of, it kind of was delaying the inevitable. But it is kind of sad anyway, because they did seem kind of cool together from what I saw on the outside looking in. But I guess all in all, it kind of probably is for the best lifestyle-wise. They don't really match up in the slightest. Like I said, she seems like a grown woman. Housephone seems like a little bit immature, just a tad, so it makes sense. Anyway, moving on from that one, last thing to talk about in No Jumper News update is featuring Yuriy, my favorite 30-year-old, 18-year-old. And I guess Yuriy now is going through a weird situation, right? Because I've kind of never been a fan of the dude. I think just being that kind of constantly kind of immature, weird, on purpose, and just silly, grown-up thing just doesn't work for me. It's all that kind of being in a state of perpetual kind of adolescence. He kind of reminds me of like a weird version of like a Bert Kreischer character, where you don't want to grow up. You kind of want to be this adult high school type of dude. I don't know. I've never really been a fan of the dude. He kind of rubs me out the wrong way. He's going through a weird situation at the moment because Riley got fired from No Jumper, his girlfriend. So they're trying to build up her channel. She's trying to do some stuff on the side and kind of, you know, kickstart whatever career she wants to do. And part of the rollout, you'd imagine, was them being invited to AceBoyPun's live stream to do Ladies Night, the clip that I played for you earlier, where they were going to sit on that live stream and essentially, give it up and kind of, be host, guests on the show, banter, whatever, talk about some certain stuff. And who knows, that attention and those eyes could lead to people deciding to jump on Riley's channel, subscribe, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It could be a good opportunity. But Yuri's still employed by No Jumper. And because Yuriy has kind of always played both sides of the line, and he's a little bit too pussy to stand up to Adam, and he clearly likes working for No Jumper still, and even though his friends have all left that he does the flipping reconnected with, he kind of is in a weird situation where he knows that Adam doesn't like Pun doesn't like Adam, but he still wants to help out his girlfriend on this show. So they agreed to go on AceBoyPun show. They first of all agreed. This is a clip taken from the No Jumper subreddit where they basically showed that they did agree and they were prepared to go. Riley did her makeup, they were chilling, they were hanging out, and they were clearly in the mood to go. So this is a clip of them before they leave their house to go to the studio to go film this flipping AceBoyPun stream. And look what happens. Look what happens on the, hear how they say, talking about it.
Text Pun and be like, is Mark Nasty going to be there? Question mark. He's going to think I'm excited.
Imagine Pun just has a whole, stripper, presses a button and, all these strippers just come in for you. Let's get to that. Boom.
And they're holding Yuriy signs.
Yeah, harmonious man.
And some girl immediately starts throwing it back in my face. I'm just gonna do this, babe.
Yeah, of course you would.
I'm gonna do this. If a bunch of strippers come in the room,
fucking sneaker.
I'm gonna be like, Pun, bro, you got me fucked up, dude. I can't be a part of this.
Anyway,
I'm outta here, Pun.
Anyway, and still imagine he's wearing imagine wearing this sort of type of merch when you're 30 years old. This is kind of stuff that you would imagine a kid would wear. It's a shirt. If you can't see this, it's like a hoodie that's got a flip on the NWO logo, but instead of having NWO, it's got ELC, which stands for Everybody Loves Cocaine. Imagine wearing that unironically. This is just as bad as wearing weed merchandise with the flipping weed leaf on it. It's just cringe. But anyway, whatever. Yuriy does that. They're clearly happy and excited before they were going to go. But then, of course, on the day of streaming, look what happened on the day of streaming. Look what happened on the day of streaming. They didn't turn up. And of course, AceBoyPun and Ace Girl Cheeks decided to kind of elaborate and kind of give some inclination as to what happened.
In here. Yeah, we in here, man. What's going on?
Hey.
So. We had some special guests tonight. We did.
We really did.
You know what I'm saying?
But, unfortunately, shit happens, and
they're literally right out there.
They made it, but
they made it. They're literally right out there.
They made it, but they didn't make it. Shit happens, and unfortunately, it's just gonna be your original ladies' night crew tonight. You feel me?
Hey, look,
and it ain't nothing wrong with it.
Ain't nothing
wrong with it, man. Shout out to Yuriy, shout out to Riley, man. But we was here. We was ready to rock.
Yeah.
So. Theories about what happened. The logical theory to kind of surmise from this, because Adam hates Pun and Pun hates Adam, most likely Adam22 put the call in and said to Yuriy, nope, if you go on AceBoyPun stream, you can't work for No Jumper anymore. Your services have been ceased. Your services have been you have been fired from this establishment, right? Your services are no longer needed. That's what he probably said to him. Which is really fucked up, because he's the one that fired his girlfriend, which is the reason why they probably agreed to go on the stream in the first place, right? So they're going on this stream to try and, I don't know, have some fun, chill out, whatever. Maybe be in the process, gain some new fans and help her build up her channel, blah, blah, blah. Maybe she might meet some new friends with these girls, who knows, whatever. And he decides, nah, he puts a kibosh on it. You can't do that. If you do that, you're fired from No Jumper. Either that's what happened, or the other thing that I think happened is that we saw how nervous Riley is, and Riley isn't, she's clearly not the most confident and person in front of camera, clearly. Even though she looks where she does and people think she looks good and stuff, she clearly doesn't like being in front of camera in any way, shape or form. In that regard, how they do on live streams. So maybe when they turned up, she got cold feet and thought, you know what, I don't want to do this actually. I'm kind of not in the mood. It's not for me. Can we cancel? And Yuriy, being a good boyfriend, kind of stood by her and said, yeah, cool, let's cancel. And they canceled it last minute. But knowing how much Adam hates Pun and knowing how much bad blood still exists between those camps, I think flipping Adam told Yuriy, don't do it, which makes Yuriy look incredibly cucked out and incredibly, spineless, because he did it essentially to help his girlfriend, but then his boss said he can't do it. The same boss that fired his girlfriend, which is why she's doing the show, and then he's agreed to it because he doesn't have a spine and can't stand up to people and just kind of gets walked over and stuff and whatnot. But then he's also kind of, tries to posture as some sort of right-wing flipping edgelord, which is absolutely hilarious because, again, he doesn't really have a spine to stand up on. But hey, it is what it is. What can you do? What can you do? Moving on from that one, we're going to talk about this. This is pretty good news and pretty interesting news, and I think will be something that a lot of people will try and kind of dismiss and poo-poo, but I think sometime along the line, we may see a shift in general of people jumping on this platform. What am I talking about? It's this news, courtesy of Globe News Wire. Rumble signs exclusive live streaming agreement with DJ Akademiks. It says here, Rumble, the video sharing platform, announced today that the popular media personality DJ Akademiks will be live streaming exclusively on Rumble 3 to 5 days a week. Known for his authentic voice, DJ Akademiks is a powerful culture and entertainment influencer with 5.2 million Instagram followers and 2.76 YouTube subscribers. The Jamaican-American podcaster will cover the latest news in hip-hop music along with a satirical take on top headlines. The quote here says, I look forward to being one of the first to bring music and cultural conversations to a platform like Rumble. There have been many bad decisions at larger platforms where they haven't put creators first and they are disconnected from the community. I feel now is an inflection point for streaming platforms. I couldn't be more excited to lead this effort on a platform that puts creators first. The quote from the CEO says, Akademiks is one of the most influential personalities in hip-hop and the cultural world. And Rumble Chairman CEO Chris Pavlovsky says having him on Rumble sends a big statement to other platforms about how serious we are in getting into different channels of content, from sports to music to culture. Tune in at 6 p.m. ET on Tuesday, April 11, which passed yesterday. He just did a stream, I think, with Sneaker and Aiden Ross, sorry. You can subscribe to his stream here. That's a link. So, and it says, yeah, about Rumble. Rumble is a high-growth, neutral video platform that's creating rails and independent infrastructure designed to immune for counterculture. Rumble's mission is to restore the internet to its roots by making it free and open. Once again, for more information, visit corp.wherever it may be. So, good news regardless, right? On the good side of it, I think it's healthy for the video sharing or streaming platforms to have competition. I think for Twitch and YouTube to dominating all these things is just not good for business. And I think, especially when you think about how these platforms are maybe ideologically bent and how political they are in terms of how they sway maybe more left, it is probably quite advantageous and probably a good thing for culture and for probably streamers overall if there does exist a neutral platform where you can quote unquote give it up and say what you want. And I think in general the kind of smut that gets placed on these platforms like Rumble, like Kick, and they try and say they're right wing for essentially just being a platform where you can say what you want is indicative of where the issue is. Most of these other popular platforms are too left leaning, so that anything else that comes up that says, hey, we will actually let you say more things and actually be more free with your content and not kind of come down on you with a banhammer because you don't abide by whatever else we're talking about here in culture overall, that says more about culture and where we kind of are in the moment than it does say about those kind of platforms. I also still think it's really good that he's deciding to go with a platform that are kind of, trying to do right by streamers. I think for the whatever reason, maybe because they've got an abundance of flipping people making videos for free, but I think platforms like YouTube and Twitch don't really care about doing right by the creators because they feel like the creators are easily replaceable. They feel like there's a lot of other people coming up. There's probably a younger 12-year-old Aiden Ross right now streaming to two people who can eventually take over his place anyway, so they don't necessarily go out their way to try to accommodate those streamers, even though those streamers are a large part of why these places or these platforms are successful. So I definitely see why that makes sense and why it's good someone like an Akademiks joining Rumble, because clearly those platforms are trying to look after the creators and having them in mind, and these things kind of need to exist. The issue I have with it is everybody kind of making it seem like it's a right-leaning type of thing. As you see here from this article on Vibe, it says right-wing media. Another article here courtesy of Fader says it's a controversial platform. I think that's unfair. I think just because you are the alternative voice on this kind of live streaming space, and you do give people the opportunities to kind of say way more, to get away with a lot more than they would be able to on a YouTube or a Twitch, doesn't necessarily mean you're right wing. And the internet does need a platform that is neutral, where people can kind of say what they want. Because as we've seen with the COVID, as we've seen with even the Jussie Smollett trial, with the Tory Lanez thing, if you don't say what the kind of collective hive mind MSN, mainstream media type of narrative is, you can get booted off. There was a moment in time where legitimately, if you kind of spoke about COVID and said it was a lab leak or whatever it may be, or you tried to blame Wuhan in particular, or the flipping, or these flipping wet markets, you get booted off of the platforms. That would be legitimately, that was kind of sacrilege. These are things that you could not say. So now that things have moved on in culture and moved on in kind of society, we have now become a lot more open to those kind of, narratives or those kind of point of views. You're no longer banned for those things anymore. So imagine the people that were kicked off these platforms, who lost a living off of the back of it, now kind of seeing culture shift and people basically change their minds. That's really not cool. So a platform like Rumble to exist that allows people to say what they want is great. The only issue I have with these kind of platforms, if it's not right-leaning, is that artistically and creatively, they flipping suck. Look at this flipping cover and this flyer they made for Ak joining flipping Rumble. Like, that is legitimately one of the most badly designed pieces of artwork I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, that is really horrible. That's like a Fiverr job. That's something that somebody paid somebody $20 on Fiverr to quickly design, and they put it together. That is horrible. They didn't even roll him out correctly. They didn't have him coming into the studio and doing a photo shoot. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he said on his clips that he met up with the CEO of Rumble and whatchamacallit, and they kind of met up, I think, at a UFC event, a UFC 287. They didn't do a photo shoot. They didn't do any kind of press bits and BTS footage and little interview, whatever it may be. Nothing. They just went on Google, typed in his name, and found some 2 images of where he looks the best, which he doesn't, because, he's, kind of tubby looking and got a round face and can't dress for shit. But the flyer is horrendous. So that's the only issue I have with these quote-unquote right-leaning platforms. They don't have good creativity, talent. When it comes to art and all that malarkey, they're not the greatest. They can probably be able to put together a pretty decent platform and get the infrastructure right, the back end stuff. But when it comes to actually making it look good, it's a bit terrible. So that's the only thing I'm not really fond of it. But I do think overall it's a good thing. I think we will see way more people, especially within the hip hop space, deciding to move over to Rumble, because I think a lot of them will be frustrated and annoyed that they didn't get the opportunity to kind of talk freely about certain topics. And like I said before, the Tory Lanez Megan Thee Stallion case being a good one. Like, if you didn't come out and initially say that you thought Megan was shot by Tory Lanez, you'd get cancelled, you'd get bullied off of the platform, your accounts may get shut down. But I think a platform does need to exist where people can kind of pontificate and just talk, and just kind of talk how people talk in real life, because that's the issue I have in general with these platforms. They kind of censor your speech, but in general, the speech that they're censoring is what people actually talk about IRL. They speak about these type of things openly. They're open to having their flipping mind changed, or maybe they're open to kind of receiving new bits of information that may alter their POV. But for whatever reason, on these platforms, if you don't abide by the collective, mainstream media point of view, you could essentially have your entire channel taken down or your livelihood completely demolished. And I don't think that's fair in the slightest. Personally, I'm not a fan of, this anti-woke cancel culture type of thing people are doing. I think if you're willing to be a hot take McGee, you have to be open to the consequences of what you say. But also, let me say what I want to say. First of all, don't limit what I say just because what I say you don't like. Let me say what I have to say, first of all. That would be the correct way to go about it. Yo, big up Green Ghost Media. Appreciate you, brother, for the
I agree, but funny. AK wouldn't know the difference.
No, of course not. That's the thing that's funny too. If you listen to DJ Akademiks, he's very smart and knowledgeable when it comes to the music industry, but I think his knowledge kind of like stops there. You wouldn't go to DJ Akademiks and listen to him for political hot takes. That's not his kind of that's not within his warehouse. It's not his expertise in the slightest. He's really good at talking about culture stuff, including hip hop, including just what's going on in society overall. Maybe some stuff about relationships, because he's got this whole hard on thoughts thing. He talks about that, rants and raves about girls on IG and all this malarkey and fresh and fits topics. Cool. But anything to do with society, anything to do with politics at large, Nah, don't listen to him. Number one, because he's not knowledgeable, and also because he's a multimillionaire. I think in general, you should maybe not take your political insights and societal flipping, things from flipping multimillionaires who can kind of inoculate themselves from the horrors of everyday life. Essentially, they're not outside here on the streets with you and I. They're in their ivory tower. So taking what they say in any way, shape, or form seriously is really dumb, in my opinion. But hey, what do I know? Moving on from that one, I didn't touch upon this because I think this is flipping legendary. So recently over the weekend, the April Easter celebration at Berghain happened, right? The I forgot what the term is. How do they say in German? Is it the Oster Klubnacht? I think Oster, whatever it's called. Easter in Germany happened, right? And they had the Easter weekend. Berghain had an incredible flipping weekend. I think it kind of stretched from Saturday all the way until Monday, maybe early Tuesday. Crazy event. Loads of big DJs playing. All the rooms open. Crazy fun. One of the people who performed there is the legend known as LSDXOXO. And he performed there, and I guess he maybe has upset some people who are big fans of Berghain and big fans of techno, because he kind of now, I guess, in their eyes, occupies this kind of TikTok techno genre, which, if you don't know, is not a good term. It's a disparaging term because it essentially applies to these, one side is really hot looking girls who are kind of skinny and wear kind of, scantily clad outfits and always look really sad, wear loads of black and play these kind of Britney Spears edits, Britney Spears techno trancey edits of like popular tracks. And it's kind of really fast and for no reason, basically no groove, kind of just bam, 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 bam. Everyone's stomping and everyone wearing kind of Y2K type of trendy glasses and whatnot, right? Cool. But that's a genre that all the kids tend to like on TikTok. Then on the guys type of thing, it's the same sort of vibe. It's these kind of, what you deem them to be gender fluid type of individuals who are very kind of expressive in the things that they wear. They have a very particular way that they play, very particular way they present themselves online and whatnot, and blah, 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 blah. For whatever reason, people don't like it. And of course, there's the Chad Broy side of it also, of type of dudes that play this sort of stuff. But TikTok techno is something people don't really like in a greater scheme of things because they feel like it waters down, it cheapens what techno is. It's not about the culture, blah, blah, blah. It's about kids going to clubs and dressing up just for the image, don't really care about the music, etc, etc, etc. Anyway, LSDXOXO plays that kind of music. I think it's a bit unfair to kind of lump him within the techno TikTok Twitter kind of space, but if you want to just box somebody in and basically give them some level of a genre, that basically is the best way to describe him. And I guess the people over there didn't like it. The thing that I like about it is like the reviews have been pretty terrible, right? And I feel like he's kind of leaning into it a little bit because people didn't like his set. They thought he was playing horrible. They didn't like it in the slightest. And I feel like he's leaning into it because of this Instagram post that he posted, right? Of himself outside the Berghain. And if you're not seeing the picture, it's him stood outside the Berghain, the classic post that most DJs do when after they played or before they go play. And usually they'll write a really big gushing caption, which I will do when I eventually do play there. My caption will be a fucking anthology. They write this massive flipping caption being really soppy and lovey about Berghain and what it means for them, and their mother one day told them it was a dream that they had, that they knew he was going to make it, all this nonsense. LSDXOXO just said, that was cute at Berghain, right? And in the picture he used is this picture where he enlarged his head to look like a flipping Bratz doll. I'm not too sure if he did it as a kind of nod to him being big-headed, or if it was just him doing a little nod to the Bratz dolls that people kind of have, a thing for. But regardless, right, I thought that post was hilarious, especially the kind of one-line caption and the picture. But I've got to read to you the reviews, right? The reviews of him playing are legitimately hilarious and kind of go back to the title of the podcast and why I think not caring is a new caring, and why not caring actually is the coolest thing that you can do, and may speak to overall this kind of general new vibe that these kids nowadays have. I don't think LSDXOXO is that young anyway. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't, but he's just got young energy. And I really do think this approach to playing at Berghain is way more cooler than kind of getting on your knees and sucking the building off. So this is what somebody said, right, about LSDXOXO's set and how he played there. He said This person said the following, right? I don't think anyone is feeling threatened by LSDXO. Instead, concerned about the future of what was the best techno club in the world and the message that he wants to send or the attitude he has towards it. He has a great opportunity to play in Berghain, which every DJ's dream, and he doesn't seem to take it seriously at all. He came on 10 minutes late. He was keeping himself busy on the phone behind the DJ in the DJ booth and then playing 4 hours of pure cheesiness. An extreme selection of rare gems from his past. If you search on Spotify Hot Hits 2000 playlist with a crossfade enabled, you can get the same results as his set. It is not only a matter of music selection, but also of mixing skill, and in case you have it, and a bit of soul and passion and emotion. That DJ set from LSDXOXO had none of the above. Plus, you play straight after a nothing but deep and groovy, captivating, flawless DJ set from Renee Wise. Big up Renee Wise, my G. Which will lead you to only a bitter frustration. You are not shaking conservatives. You are a poisonous soul. Now remember, I'm pretty sure this person isn't employed by the Berghain. They're not employed by Berghain. They're just a regular punter like you and I, just a regular civilian, and they are capping. They are white knighting so hard for a club that couldn't give a single F about this person. And here they are, essentially sucking off the entire building and acting like a flipping white knight Berghain saber because LSDXO turned up to the flipping Berghain 10 minutes late, decided to be on his phone the whole time playing Candy Crush or browsing Instagram or perusing Grindr or whatnot, right? And then just, you know, phoning in the set. I love that energy. As much as I want to play in that space, I also think the flipping of the self-important kind of vibe that people have there, where they legitimately think a part of their personality is a crucial part of their personality is being somebody that goes to clubs and whatnot, especially that sort of club. The kind of people, especially at Berghain or when they go to Berlin, who have a phone like I do with this sort of clear plastic case, right? And when you go Berghain, usually they cover your phone with loads of stickers, your phone camera, so you don't take pictures in the club and whatnot. A lot of people would basically on purpose, like, you know how people with wristbands and festivals where they'll go to festivals and they wouldn't ever take the wristbands off. Some people will go to Berlin or Berghain, these kind of places, and purposely get the stickers all over their phone and never take them off their phone case. So the type of people that legitimately have a personality based on clubbing and stuff, they're the ones that are capping and saying all this nonsense. So it's quite nice and quite refreshing, legitimately refreshing, to have somebody like LSDXO come out and essentially play the club dust, turn up like any other gig that he's playing in, whether it's in Zurich, whether it's in Paris or Bogota, and just do the bare minimum and kind of clock in and clock out. I love that energy. I absolutely love that energy, unironically. Don't get me wrong. If I went there and I queued for 4 hours and I went in eventually and he's basically playing another edit of some Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, Rihanna flipping techno song that's blowing up on Instagram, I'm going to be annoyed. But as a punter on the outside in, looking at it from the outside, looking at LSDXO, who I've always been a fan of and love his productions, I love that kind of energy. I absolutely love that he's rattled these people online so much that they legitimately are taking up arms for Berghain and saying that he doesn't represent us and he doesn't represent the scene and blah, blah, blah. But the truth of it is, the unfortunate, real truth of it is that people like him and the other lot, and maybe even some people that occupy the business techno side of things, they are the future. They're legitimately the future because they have the kids in their hands. You think about all those other girls that play within that techno, you know, TikTok techno scene. I don't want to name any names to offend any people, but you know who I'm talking about. All these kind of like really pale looking, dark, you know, haired girls and whatnot, tattoos, colored hair, whatever, that wear scantily clothes. You know, they kind of all look the same. They play the same type of music. They got the kids in their hands. The kids love what they do. Their live streams get, you know, hundreds of thousands of views, sometimes millions. They're flipping sellout venues. People buy tickets to go and see them. It's no surprise that a club like Berghain, especially post-pandemic, would be trying to lean into that a little bit more because, number one, that's where the youth are at, and number two, they sell tickets. And if you're coming off the back of the pandemic, you need to be able to kind of make sure that the flipping club is, you know, somewhat financially stable and is able to kind of generate money. What's the best way to do it? Booking the kids, because you kind of kill two birds with one stone. You don't get blamed for booking the old fuddy-duddies. you also kind of promote the youngsters that are coming up, and you also make sure that people are going to be queuing, and it's going to be a kind of consistent flow of people turning up because they want to see this person who saw on Instagram, blah, 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 blah. I think it's awesome. I love it. I think it's all great. I love his energy about it. And I think there's a post here that actually may have been a kind of ghost post that he may have done, allegedly. We don't know. But I feel like his kind of post about it was absolutely hilarious too. Or whoever kind of posted it, kind of trolling. I thought this was great. Off of the back of people not being happy about his set. The post goes as follows. It says, huge news story developed out of Berghain last night as LSDXOXO threatened to destroy the techno universe once and for all with his cheesy pop edits, and Helena Hauff cleared the main floor again. Oh man, I'm honestly hoping that's not true and that's a joke, because I'm a big fan of Helena Hauff and I really wanted to go and see her play, but the flipping flight tickets were just crazy for that Easter weekend. But if that's true that she cleared the dance floor, then that's really funny, because she's somebody a lot of the heads and a lot of the flipping guys, that girls and kind of that get it, would say is a real true techno person. So if they cleared the dance floor, but LSDXOXO got people dancing, even though he played horrible, cheesy, pop edits, who's the real powerhouse here? Who's the real it person? Come on. Anyway, let's continue. The post says as follows. When asked about his selections by RA in 2020, LSD said, sometimes feelings are funny. You just have to take a moment to make fun of yourself. But Berghain goers were in no mood for laughing. One local fell to their knees in prayer, wailing, Lord, save us from the TikTok DJs. A few hours later, they were seen in Ben Clock's set howling, praise Jesus Christ for delivering us our Instagram king. Because ironically enough, even though Ben Clock is a OG of flipping Berghain and a resident there, he's also very popular on flipping TikTok also. It continues. Party for the SWM DJs seized on the moment, calling for immediate removal of LSDXO from all future lineups and a full reinstatement of Berghain's former glory of quality white techno bros. Love it. As always, the future is never so black and white, but Hauff's disaster class had one furious techno head suggesting she should apply to make the breakfast moves at the S bar instead. Though Hauff's Berghain future may be on ice, it was LSDXO who quite literally let the dogs out. Sal Solerson, editor-in-chief of the Reasoner. Big up whoever posted that. Big up if it was LSDXO on a troll. That was hilarious. I think this post coming, playing there with your big head, kind of saying maybe your big head conceited or just a brat style thing. I don't know. I think that was awesome. Triggering everybody by just being good at what you do and playing what the crowd wants is also flipping hilarious. I absolutely love it. And, it just kind of reminds me of the power of the guy overall. I've always been a big fan of him in general. Personally, for me, I'm one of the people that believes LSDXOXO is a better producer than he is a DJ. But still, it doesn't matter because Double Threat is still a double threat. And, two of my kind of favorite productions from LSDXOXO definitely would be tracks like Codename, Cottonmouth, and what was the other one on that same EP? False Idols. Yeah, those two are definitely two tracks that I always love from the guy, and I've always appreciated and loved in any kind of way, shape or form. So yeah, big up him. So moving on from that one, let's quickly talk about some other things here that I wanted to discuss here before I leave you. This is pretty entertaining. This is a interview Elon Musk had with the BBC where he completely eviscerated this BBC reporter. And the funny thing about this is that, if I'm not mistaken, this whole interview, the whole basis of this is to do with it's to do with the fact that Twitter had designated BBC's account on Twitter as government funded, because it's in the name, right? British Broadcasting Company. But for whatever reason, I think BBC didn't like the connotations of being government funded. They were kind of arguing against it, going through a back and forth. And I guess eventually Elon decided to jump on a Twitter space and have a face-to-face interview with BBC representative and this journalist and kind of hash it out and talk about the differences. But I guess the journalist didn't kind of account for Elon pushing back ever so slightly. And again, Elon Musk has done a lot of kind of bullshit stuff over the last few months, I feel like, and being a big fan of his, especially being a fan of the kind of stuff that he makes or the companies that he kind of sets up and builds and the things that he's trying to do in terms of technology, in terms of space exploration, in terms of making, you know, us multi-planetary species and whatnot, and AI and robots and whatnot. He's got a lot of cool things that you can kind of get behind. And being somebody that kind of got exposed to him via reading that amazing unofficial autobiography by Ashley Vance, which I definitely recommend you pick up. It's available on Audible and whatever kind of platform. I think I listened to it as an audiobook, but it's a really good autobiography. It kind of paints him really well, like it's maverick kind of genius, kind of inventor guy type of things. He has his flaws in terms of not delivering by a deadline, but generally that side of things I love about him. But over the last couple of, you know, maybe 18 months or more, he's really become quite unlikable. Really, really unlikable, especially when you think about recently what's been going on with Matt Taibbi and how he essentially used him to be a mouthpiece for Twitter and kind of use his credibility as a somewhat neutral journalist to kind of do his dirty work with the Twitter files. And then when he basically decided he didn't want to change jobs and leave Substack and come over to Twitter, he decided to now make Substack links be kind of, you know, not enabled or not liked on a Twitter platform and all this sort of nonsense. Just really petty, crappy stuff that easily somebody could have kind of, you know, brought to his attention and really kind of got to the crux of it and actually understood, hey, what's your motivation behind doing this? Why would you treat somebody this way? Why would you do some certain thing when a lot of people, you know, you think a lot of kind of Substack journalists type of people who write on Substack are basically quite active Twitters also. So to kind of, you know, take away their ability to kind of share links or whatnot, it's just kind of a shitty thing to do. The BBC journalist did not do that. He decided to sit down there and kind of essentially go for some ideological, possessed, emotional questions regarding hate speech and whatnot, which is something that can't be defined. It's too flipping vague and emotional and just loosey-goosey to kind of really get down to it and kind of really have a discussion about it. And Elon pushed back slightly, and this guy was fumbling all over the place. And it makes you really wonder about these flipping journalists who call themselves journalists or whatever it may be. These guys don't have a Scooby. They're absolute dumb as bricks. But here's Elon absolutely eviscerating this journalist pretty easily.
I mean, I would only just add that, you know, we have spoken to people who have been sacked that used to be in content moderation, and we've spoken to people very recently who were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that
what hate speech are you
address?
talking about? I mean, you use Twitter.
Right.
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
but just a personal anecdote, like what do you? I don't.
Personally, for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content. Yeah, personally, but I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
You see.
So this is the easy question to answer, I feel like, because I think most people can agree, especially when Elon first took over, that meme of loads of random accounts basically spamming the N-word and not getting banned, that was happening. And I'm also seeing, I feel like, a lot more of these kind of blue check mark type of like bro, chatty, dog whistle, were racist type of accounts. The type of ones that always like posting pictures of like Switzerland and places where there's not a lot of like immigration or whatnot, right? These sort of accounts have kind of, I feel like, blown up and become a lot more prominent online on Twitter mostly. Maybe it's just my feed because I follow maybe a few of these accounts because I just think it's funny when people are like weirdly dog whistly, slightly racist like that. I just find it super hilarious in a weird way. So maybe I'm seeing more of it, but that's an easy sort of anecdote you can kind of pull from. That definitely is something you see more on social media, especially on Twitter for sure. Hate speech is kind of hard, like I said, to kind of pin down, but that's an easy anecdote. Yes, you I feel like are seeing way more kind of like way more stuff that you would put within the kind of, not white nationalist, but you know, maybe that kind of like white pride type of thing. It kind of does exist. It kind of is what it is. But yeah, hear how this guy fumbles it.
More hate speech personally.
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So imagine wanting this to be one of your kind of, you know, things that you pull up, you kind of pull Elon on, and you can't define hate speech. not define it, in kind of absolute terms, but at least your definition for whatever argument you want to put forth. You should have some semblance of where you want to go. But he does as a Scoobiest. If anything, this is just all feelings based. He feels like Twitter's a meaner place now. So now, it's a cesspool. Everyone should be banned, all this malarkey. What an absolute crazy person. But let's just play it up a little bit more.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not
Let's
saying
go back
anything.
again. I think that's awesome. Let's go back again. This is best bit.
A reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm
just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content. And I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content.
Crazy.
Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't.
Oh my God! He mentions the For You tab. He sees way more hate speech under the For You tab on Twitter. Then when he's pushed back and grilled and asked to clarify and actually have at least one example, he can't name one example because guess what? He doesn't use Twitter much, or he doesn't use the For You tab much. Now, I don't know if he's being facetious and he's doing that thing that people do when they want to seem and appear as if they're like smarter than what they are. Oh, I don't watch TV. I'm not really into that kind of stuff. Yeah, you do watch TV. You see clips on your flipping phone. That essentially is TV now. Like, stop being dumb, right? So maybe he's kind of being pretentious on purpose, but this is hilarious. What a hilarious fumble. This is the best the BBC had to provide.
You like it.
But you
and
said
actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I only.
A lot of people. Hang on a second. You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen that you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying.
Then I say so that you don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, this reminds me of one of those interviews I've had before where you go, have you ever had a job interview where you don't prepare? I've had a couple of those. Maybe because, again, not to take things for granted, but there are times where I've been applying for jobs where I've been applying for many places at the same time. Or maybe there's a particular job that's a bit more down the line that I actually want. So maybe I'm at the final stages, but I'm still keeping my kind of eyes open and the door open because I'm one of those people who I never take anything for granted until I've kind of signed the papers. And sometimes even until I've signed the contract or even until I started. So I'm always kind of keeping my eye open. So there's a couple of times where I was applying for other places that I'm further down the line on. And then this other place tells me, hey, come in for an interview. And you just think, fuck it, let me just go and just speak to them. So you just go with a bit of arrogance because you've already got this other thing in the bag that you're kind of confident about. And then you just go in there with no preparation. And you get grilled by a CEO or the manager or whoever's interviewing you. And you feel so ridiculous at the end. You're like, you wasted their time, your time. You embarrass yourself and your family. You know what I mean? You just leave it thinking, oh my God, what a horror show. And this is what that feels like. No preparation, none whatsoever, zero, not even anecdotal evidence that you can share and say, oh, my friends, since they've been using Twitter, since you've taken over, 2 of them have lost their lives, 3 of them have been admitted to flipping hospital, blah, blah, or whatever, just something. He's got nothing, just feelings, just what he feels and what people say to him. Crazy.
Because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No, what I claimed...
You just lied.
What I claimed was there are many organizations that say that that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not... I mean, right, and
literally
if you look at something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK, they will say that.
Oh my God. Look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I've already said, I don't use that feed. But
Well, then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting
You
anywhere.
literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know there's hateful content?
Because I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago.
This reminds me so much of, what's her name? Kathy something, right? Or that woman that interviewed Jordan Peterson on Channel 4. Right? So what you're saying is absolute horror show. Absolute horror show.
I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time. COVID misinformation. You changed the COVID misinformation.
Has
rules.
BBC changed its COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not.
He's destroying this guy. Absolutely destroying him.
Not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
Exactly. Look at that. Look at the pause is the best bit about this. I've got to rewind this. The pause is the best bit about this.
Information about COVID.
Let's go back again. Let's go back again.
I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
I'm literally asking you about, you changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. There used to be a policy, it then disappeared. Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue. Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations, and not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
This is not an interview about the BBC.
Oh, you thought it wasn't?
I see now why you've done Twitter Spaces. I am not a representative of the BBC's editorial policy. I want to make that clear.
Oh no, we know that. Don't worry, we know that. You're not representative yourself. Look at that. Even the posture, even the flipping posture, everything about it is just screaming BETA male. Look at that. Absolute cretin. And again, I've not been the biggest fan of Elon in the last 18 months. I feel like, he's kind of shown himself up to be a pretty despicable individual, especially the way he kind of chewed up and spat out flipping Matt Taibbi. Bless the guy. He probably should have known better. But in general, the guy's been pretty unlikable the last 18 months. There's so many things you could literally pin him to the mast about and really kind of get him to kind of speak about in a kind of really open way and maybe get to the bottom of or call him out on certain things. That guy had nothing prepared. Zero. No prep, no nothing. Just vibes. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Moving on from that one, we quickly need to mention this, which I thought was hilarious, right? And people are going crazy about it, and I don't really understand. This is news courtesy of flipping BBC. It says Millie Bobby Brown announces her engagement to Jake Bon Jovi. And everyone's going crazy about this because I guess they're really young. She's 19, he's 20. And it just seems to be like a really forward and quick age to be getting engaged with. Now, my alternative perspective on this is that this is not that crazy. This is just standard white people business. White people, especially if they're young and they have money, or even sometimes if they don't have money, they just love to love. And sometimes if they find a one when they're young, they'd rather kind of commit to that person early on than try and be out there in the streets looking for love. And if they decided that they kind of work out and they kind of, they click, they see a future together, despite how young they may be, I have no issue with it whatsoever, especially given that they're both the same age. This would be way different if Bon Jovi's kid was flipping 28, right? But he's 20, if I'm not mistaken. They're basically a year apart. They're in the same age, same peer group, same generation. It's completely fine. And from what I've read online and bits and pieces I've seen, allegedly this Millie Bobby Brown girl, 11 from Stranger Things, if you're not aware, she has what people, I think her fans don't like her family. I think a lot of her fans feel like her family are exploitative and they maybe take advantage of her and her success and whatnot. And if that's the case, maybe having the ability to marry someone like this and kind of marry into a quote unquote stable family so that you can kind of run away from your own family is a good way. It's a good way to kind of, rescue and kind of revive your life in some way, shape or form. I see legitimately no issue with this whatsoever. The only person that should be crying into their flipping mimosa right now is probably Drake. because Drake's always kind of, you know, looked over the girl and been a bit of a mentor to Millie Bobby Brown, even though it's been a bit bizarre that he was at the time texting a 17-year-old or whatever it may be and offering her flipping, what's that word, career advice. He's the only person that should be flipping annoyed and pissed off about this, because this Bon Jovi kid guy, he looks nothing like a Drake. That's basically what her taste is. Her taste is whatever this guy looks like, because he looks nothing like Drake. He's not mixed race in the slightest. He's a real kind of smoke show, blonde looking guy, blue eyes, chiseled jawline. He looks nothing like Drake whatsoever. So the fact that this is kind of her first relationship, especially at such a tender age, this will, you imagine, will kind of shape the kind of guys that she's into long term going forward. So if you're Drake, you should be screaming in your mimosa right now and thinking, God, why always me? Why always me? But it also does remind me slightly of this guy that I knew in school. It's actually a kind of a famous footballer who went on to kind of be a West Ham legend, Mark Noble. And I say this is normal because I know a lot of people, especially from the area that I'm from, where a lot of kind of kids I kind of grew up with ended up having children really early, under the age of 18, or ended up kind of marrying or staying with the same person they had kids with when they were under 18. It happens so often with the whites. They just love to love. If the flipping, you know, blacks and browns love to have flipping baby mothers and run around town and, you know, live life and be free, then the whites definitely love to settle down super early. And just think about, what's the other person? Just think about flipping, what's his name? The Beckham kid and his girlfriend. That's another one. That's another example. His wife, sorry. What's his name? Brooklyn Beckham and Nicola Petz. They're another example of them, of these kind of young whites designed to kind of hook up and get married super, super early. The only issue with this, what I discovered, having done my Googles a little bit, I didn't know this. I don't know if you guys are aware of this either. But this lady, the girl that flipping Brooklyn Beckham is married to, is actually 28. I thought they were the same age. I thought this girl was the same age as him, but he's 24 and she's 28. So they got together when he was a literal baby in terms of maybe 22, 21. So that's the only thing that's a bit strange. But then again, 4 years, is it that crazy? I'm not really too sure. But again, I'm not too shocked. I think white people be doing white people shit. And if she's happy, she looks like it. He's a stud by all accounts, right? The son of Bon Jovi is probably not the baddest guy to kind of end up with, especially as your flipping first husband. And in actuality, let's be real also. Most likely this won't last. Most likely, you know, without putting any bad vibes out there and touch wood, they'll probably get divorced somewhere along the line. But this is a pretty good story to tell. It's a pretty good first marriage to have on your flipping list of marriages. It's not that bad. It's not that difficult, I feel like. It's not that bad of a thing that they kind of ended up in. So if they're happy and they're enjoying themselves, more power to them. You know, enjoy yourself, do your thing. White people business, not my business. Don't give a fuck. Moving on from that one, we got news here courtesy of BMW. BMW have decided to announce, weirdly enough, that Frank Ocean will be performing at Coachella. I was one of the people that were doubting it because of his constant flakes over the years and the way that he kind of broke my heart, because I one year decided to buy a ticket to go to Primavera, partly because he was performing there. One of his first gigs he was doing in Europe in a long, long time. And I think the week before we flew out there, he cancelled. And ever since then, he's been cancelling shows all the time. Now, some of it has to do with the tragic circumstances of his little brother dying in that car accident. And I think that kind of, you know, moved things and changed things in terms of career. And now he's doing Homer, his jewelry line, which is clearly popping and doing great things with. Maybe the drive and the kind of willingness to kind of go on stage and perform just isn't there anymore. And he's clearly made a lot of money anyway, so why bother? But maybe this is a signal that he's kind of getting back to being back out there and feeding his fans again. But weirdly, BMW announced it because they posted this really crazy cool video featuring clips of the original car that was featured on the classic album mixtape Nostalgia Ultra. They kind of featured it, and it kind of shows maybe that he's going to be performing on me there. There's quite a good little bit of promo to kind of lead up to Coachella, which is happening, I think, in the next couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Next couple of weeks, I'm sure of it. Pretty cool, right? So you see that coming up in the car park with the headlights. And then, of course, the best one is seeing the actual full image of the car itself. Like, that is so amazing. That car looks so, so sexy. 3-door BMW. I think it's an M3, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's got E30 M3 in orange with those amazing rims. And yeah, people are saying that he was there. This is a quote looking at people that were there as well also. And somebody, I think I saw on the Frank Ocean subreddit or somewhere, someone said they drove past the area where Coachella is taking place and they heard Frank Ocean rehearsing, which I think is a little bit, skeptical, because how they were driving by at the exact same time as he was flipping whatever rehearsing. I'm not really sure about that, but they did say they overheard some beautiful techno. So that could be a possibility. He could be performing some new material, but it also could be a chance for him to perform some of his hits and go back to, nostalgia, basically ultra, and all these classics that he has in his catalog that he didn't really get to perform in a big way, and kind of have that out there for the fans. But I love it regardless. Great announcement. Can't wait to watch it and hear it. And from what I've been hearing online, it will be live streamed. So for fans like myself who are not going to Coachella, we can watch it from the comfort of our homes. Next, we've got news here courtesy of, Twitter sneaker space thing that's kind of getting people really... No, what is that? No. Next we've got news courtesy of Sneakerhead Twitter. And Sneakerhead Twitter has been up in arms about this news. I'm not really too bothered about them because I kind of like this, but this is a really interesting development. So, it's long been rumored that Union were going to have another Jordan released this year. And the initial rumors that we heard, based on the description of the shoe, was that it was going to be another Jordan High. And at first we heard that it was going to be another Jordan High in the style and in the colorway kind of format of their kind of previous ones that did really well, which were the kind of black, blue, red ones. I forgot the flipping name of them. What's the flipping name of those black, blue, red ones that came out? Actually, I got the list here. Let me see. The list here that originally came out, everyone was liking, which were, the Air Jordan High. So they got the black toe one and the blue ones, right? So people were basically thinking that there were going to be another sort of spin on this kind of, what you would deem to be a classic shoe nowadays in this Union Air Jordan 1 with a black toe. So that was the initial kind of assumption people had in their heads based on just the description of the shoe. But then more details came out about the shoe, and we heard it would potentially have a kind of a footscapey type of vibe to it. And being as a footscape is a real Marmite shoe in sneaker culture, people don't necessarily tend to like it. Somebody decided to put a mock-up together of what a Air Jordan High with a footscape detailing would look like. And it looked like this. Essentially an Air Jordan High in white with the sort of footscape woven pattern on the outside, kind of, looking what you'd kind of expect from a regular footscape. And people were up in arms on social media. They did not like it in the slightest. They hated it, especially if you're somebody that was a fan of the classic black toe Jordan. Seeing something like this just didn't really sit with you in the slightest. It got so bad, Chris Gibbs, the founder and the head honcho over there at Union, had to come out and make a statement. And he writ this flipping wafty, vaguey, saying nothing without saying something flipping statement that made people even more angrier and made people more sure that this horrendous Jordan, with the footscape flipping design on it, will be coming out. The statement he released, courtesy of Complex, said as follows: it has been our company's stance to not comment on future projects until we're ready to start our marketing campaign around any particular launch. Although this stance has been extremely hard to keep at times, we are sticking to it. And it isn't half of the fun, around any sneaker launch also tethered to the hunt now anyway. What would any self-respecting sneaker launch be without rumors of release dates and fan mock-ups and of what they think is coming out, or even better, what they think we should have designed? I can't take that away from us. I won't. Needless to say, I'm sorry, but I can't make any comments that either or deny or confirm the current rumors swirling around about the potential 2023 Union Jordan collaboration, other than say, let the hunt begin. Which is obviously, I'm a big fan of Chris Gibbs. I love what he's done at Union. He's a flipping OG for sure. He can definitely use that term OG, even though I think it's really corny and lamey, and to kind of refer to yourself as an OG if you're over the age of 18, really kind of give your head a wobble. But he definitely has kind of earned that right. But this does come across a little bit self-absorbed, a little bit insufferable, a little bit pompous, and just kind of screams why I kind of hate kind of speaking to anybody associated with the scene in the slightest. Like, they really have an ego that's really, really crazy. But regardless, all of this to say, after all of that flipping quotes, after all those flipping statements and all this flipping conjecture, the final product kind of leaked with these flipping sneaker leaker accounts, which are essentially Chinese factories that get them ahead of time so they can kind of make loads of fakes and kind of make loads of money off the back of them. They finally did release a picture of what that Union Jordan footscape thing will look like. And guess what? It looks exactly like the mock-up. The mock-up that someone put together, the actual official image of what these things will look like eventually, they look exactly like them. And if you don't see the picture here, you essentially have the same classic Jordan high design that they kind of featured on that kind of legendary black toe design that you got featured here with the kind of overstitched skirt design here on the front, whatnot. But essentially, the design is the same as the mock-up with the addition of the little footscape woven added onto the side of the shoe. So whatever people floated out there about what it would look like, they ended up looking the same. So everybody that was hating the shoe has been justified in their hate because the shoes look exactly like things that people wouldn't like. Now, me personally, I'm a big fan of the footscape. I've always loved the shoe, maybe because of the generation of a sneakerhead that I am and the way they were introduced into the kind of, space when I was kind of buying shoes. I felt like footscapes were always kind of a bit of a luxury shoe. They kind of felt like what people would look like when it kind of felt like the first thing you'd buy before you might buy a Visvim shoe or something a little bit more luxe than that, especially because they fell under the HTM banner, which at the time was a particular kind of branch, kind of exclusive luxury, really high quality shoes that were kind of made in conjunction between three people, Hiroshi Fujiwara, Tinker Hatfield and Mark Parker, and they kind of combined to make these really luxe and really kind of exclusive limited edition shoes, usually with really good materials, not really crazy colorways, but loads of tumbled leather, loads of fur, loads of pebble, whatever it may be. And it kind of really did well back in the day when I was buying shoes. And one example of that footscape model is this classic, which is the Hideout shoe that I think came out in 2007. And I think I had a pair of the browns, but I didn't get a pair of the whites. But these footscapes Hideout collaborations came out in about 2007, very, very popular. A lot of people liked them at the time. But again, the shoe model is very Marmite-ish in terms of its appeal because of the kind of, the way the laces are kind of bent on the side, the woven pattern, the way they kind of sit on your foot, the fact that they only work with certain type of pants and whatnot. And just generally, if you're a fan of Jordan 1s and this type of silhouette and you're that type of sneakerhead, I can understand why footscapes are just not for you. It makes complete sense. But for me, the Hideout footscape was always really something that I kind of, warmed to, especially in these two colorways. I think they were absolutely boss and looked absolutely incredible, especially from the side. But I can imagine why people aren't really big fans of them. So if you do see that final product of what they're going to look like, it makes sense why you're not going to like them. But I'm curious to see, because Union Jordans overall, I thought the same thing happened with the Jordan 4s. When the Jordan 4s were initially leaked, I feel like a lot of people didn't essentially like them. But I definitely do think the Jordan 4 Unions are one of their stronger collaborations that they've done over the years. But when the images initially leaked, people didn't like them because guess what? They didn't look like the Jordan 1s. So I'm curious. Will all this flipping kerfuffle online and people spitting their dummies out and crying and getting upset about the shoe not being to their liking and maybe not being as good as the previous collaborations, will it matter when they initially drop? Because are these going to end up selling out, yes or no? I'm going to say yes. They're still going to sell out. They're still going to go for crazy amounts on StockX. People are going to be fighting over them. So everything people are saying about the shoes and about what they don't like about them design-wise is going to be mute. Because essentially, I feel like nowadays, sneakerheads, for the most part, aren't really sneakerheads. They just buy limited edition shoes. They don't actually care about if a shoe, they're not actually interested if they like a shoe or not. They're most interested in, is this shoe limited? Is it one of 100, one of 1,000, one of 10,000, 100,000? If that's the case, they'll buy it, no matter how ugly or how disastrous it may flipping look on their feet. They don't care. As long as it's limited, it means it's good to them. So all this flipping stuff people are saying online, I think once the shoes come out, people are going to change their tune, especially if it comes out in a colorway they like. If Union put together a colorway that maybe is similar to one of these Jordan, Union Jordan 1s that they did before, maybe it's a black toe, maybe it's a red toe, whatever it may be, I guarantee you everybody that's crying online is going to purchase them, because I don't think the woven design on the side is really that much of an issue that it would make somebody not buy the shoe flat out. I don't think so personally. I think a lot of people will end up changing their tune and will end up purchasing very, very soon. But I do like that people are kind of speaking about the design more online and kind of kicking up a fuss about what they don't like about it design wise, and you know, maybe it's something that they would never wear. But I think once they initially do come out, everyone's tune will change, because I can't think of a single limited edition shoe that people thought was ugly that sat around on the flipping shelves. Even the Jordans that maybe took a lot longer to initially sell, right? The Jordan 4s, they still initially ended up selling out anyway. So this idea that they won't sell out is ludicrous, because they're limited. They're going to sell out, and people, because they're whores and they're flipping sluts to the Jordan 1s, and they have no real taste or no real personality, and they're all flipping sheep and lemming, they're going to essentially go and buy them because they're limited and because they're unions, just to come and stunt and kind of freak out on people online and stuff. That's what's going to happen. I can almost guarantee you that. But talking about union, this list, also courtesy of Complex, is pretty cool. It ranks all of the Union Nike collaborations from best to worst. And there's some pretty horrendous ones, like this one that I had no idea about, right? This Union Nike Dunk Challenge Supreme in black. Legitimately horrendous. It takes some of the Tech Challenge colorways and puts it on a dunk with a strap from a Vandal. Horrible. Hate it. Same thing on this one with the white colorway. Ridiculously horrendous. And then it starts to get into some interesting projects. You got this Jordan Delta. I've not seen any other brand do another Jordan Delta again. So again, credit to Union for taking chances and going for models that not everybody's kind of going for. So credit to them for that. But that model is horrendous. Then it goes into a Jordan Zoom 92, which I think was very underrated. I actually did like this model, and I thought the colorway was pretty sick. So I'm not that mad of it. This is the Guava Ice colorway. Number 17, you got the Union Nike Cortez in off noir, which again I think was a very good flip on, I think, a pretty underrepresented, underpraised model in the Cortez. It definitely doesn't get the love it definitely deserves, I feel like. Same goes for the Lemon Frost colorway in 16, and the Smoke Grey colorway in 15, and the Sesame colorway in 14. Then we've got the Union Jordans in Desert Moss. Again, I feel like this was a definitely slept on colorway and collaboration in general. They did really well and they smashed these, and you can tell by the amount of times you see people actually wearing them in real life. I think that's a good sign in terms of how successful the shoes were, so I like those. Number 12, you got the Air Jordan 2 in Frog Grey. These are pretty cool also, but again, people don't like Jordan 2s because they're not 1s, they're not 4s. People just have this weird taste about them. For me, I feel that these KO Jordan 1 lows from Union are way too far up in the list. I personally hate and despise all Jordan lows. I feel like Jordan 1 lows just look like they're cheap up on the material. They look like they've been cut with scissors, and it just look horrendous. I feel like if I'm going to wear a low shoe in this type of silhouette, I just go for a dunk. Why go for a Jordan 1 low? It just feels horrible. So I'm not really a fan of those KOs at all. And then again, putting an all white colorway that high up on the list is also a bit weird, but hey, we continue. Then you've got 10, you've got another Jordan 2 collaboration with Union here. You got the Rattan colorway, which again was pretty nice, but people don't like Jordan 2s. And you got another one, number 9. You've got the top haze colorway of the Jordan 4s, which is really good. You've got the number 8 here. You've got the Dunk lows. You got the Passport Pack Court Purple, which is really pretty crazy. Nice little Lakers type of flip on there. Number 7, you've got the Passport Pack Pistachio colorway, another really good colorway also. Number 6, you got the Argon in the Passport Pack. And then number 5, of course, you got the Guavas, which are definitely big in Jordan 4s. Same thing goes for the Off-White Jordans. And then you've got the classic here, the Storm Blue Jordan 1s. And then you've also got the classic, the 180 Clerks pack from back in the day, which probably go for bucks, I'd reckon. I'm assuming these probably go for thousands right now, because these came out when I was still buying shoes back in the early 2000s. So I'm assuming this must go for like, oh yeah, see, 1,000. These goes for 1,000. These Nike Air Force 1 180s. These should be retroed, actually. I'm surprised they haven't been retroed anytime soon, but they're definitely a shoe that should be retroed very fairly soon, but they haven't been retroed in a while. But these Air Force 180s at the moment are going for absolute bucks. They say £242, but I absolutely doubt it in terms of that being the last sale. Let's just double check as the flipping thing loads here from flipping StockX, but I doubt it's going to be selling for that cheap. It definitely has to be selling for way more than that. Oh wow, it actually is. Okay, cool. Last sale is 242, but you can buy them for 1,400 and 1,746 in my size. Absolutely crazy. they're flipping 180. So they definitely deserve to be that far up on the list. So big up them. And of course, number one on that list, you've then got the Black Toe Jordan 1. So that makes complete sense to me. I completely get it overall. But like I said before, I think everyone's going to change their tune. Once those flipping Footscape Air Jordan 1s end up coming out, everyone's going to change their tune. Everyone's going to want them. And all that pompous nonsense people have been spewing about, I don't want to buy them because, nah, you'll wear them. Trust me, you're going to wear them because they are what they are. Because they are what they are. Next on list here, I want to mention these because these look absolutely incredible. And this is something that I think deserves a little bit more love. This is news courtesy from Stüssy regarding the Stüssy and Martine Rose collaboration. It's that Stüssy has collaborated with London-based Martine Rose on a capsule centered around the art of driving. Very refreshing collaboration take. This is how to do collabs. Stüssy are doing the collabs perfect, and doing it around flipping driving is flipping amazing, especially when you think that no one really does this apart from maybe, I don't know, what's that thing called, Anti-Social Social Club, but they don't ship their stuff, so it doesn't count. The range features a steering wheel cover, driving gloves, and a scented air freshener, a co-branded car mat, and a French flag and a college story windscreen. The collection is rounded out with apparel Stüssy t-shirts featuring the classic stand firm text and a hoodie with a graphic treatment. The Stüssy and Martine Rose collaboration will be available from Friday, April 14th, and North America, April 14th, UK, April 14th, Europe, April 14th, Japan, Korea, April 14th. And some of the stuff in this collection, specifically the gloves for me, are a winner. I'm definitely getting the gloves. The glove looks so hard. Obviously, I'm not going to be driving them because I don't drive just yet. I'm going to be pushing my pedal bike around with them, but the gloves look incredible. The pictures look great too. They kind of remind me of back in the day when I used to collect Max Power magazines, you know, car magazines and whatnot. I used to be obsessed with that whole thing for a while when I was a kid. So this is pretty cool to see. Look at this car. Oh, so beautiful. Nice t-shirts also. And you've got the air freshener there. You got the windscreen cover as well. Some good pictures taken here. And the car cover, the steering wheel cover as well. And look, the guy in the car himself, he looks pretty amazing. You've got more pictures here that give you a better detail image. Look at Ja Paul in the car there hanging out. That give a better image on what the flipping items look like in the line sheet. But then going by the item by item, for sure, for me, the standout is definitely the driving gloves. These are going to be really, really popular. I'm starting to get to a point where I really want to buy loads of gloves for my bike, but also just buy gloves for just wearing day to day. So these would be definitely up my kind of alley. I love how Martine Rose kind of added the Martine Rose kind of text here as a sort of flip to the mechanic gloves that I have and I wear on my bike. So they kind of look at there'll be mechanic collaborations, but they're actually just a collaboration between Martine Rose and Stüssy. So they've been kind of constructive from the ground up in that regard. So they look flipping amazing. I'm a fan of these, especially that they got these kind of reggae Jamaica kind of colorway going on with them also. So I like those. The hoodie is fairly decent as well, with a nice kind of Stüssy and co-branded logo on the front there. That looks pretty nice. I'm sure those will be popular also. And then you've got the driving mat here, which is nice as well. It features that kind of, what's that hippie? I've got the print as well of a hoodie. I forgot what it's called. It's kind of like the hippie weed man sort of print thing. I kind of like that. And the number 8 ball here, which all the kids on TikTok love. Stüssy logo, the 8 ball logo is absolutely smashing it online there. And then you've got, I guess this is something that you put on your windscreen. That looks pretty cool. And you've got the windscreen cover there also. And you've got the air freshener as well. And then lastly, you've got the steering wheel cover. That's a cheetah print cover. That's cool. I love the look of that. And the t-shirts as well. So pretty solid collection overall. I love it from front to bottom. And I'm definitely will be trying to get a couple of pieces myself when it eventually does drop. Anyway, this has been the Agostinho Zinga Show, episode number 664. Thanks so much for tuning in to the show. It's been a pleasure to have your company as per usual. If you've enjoyed the show and you've liked what you've seen so far, you know what to do down below with all the stuff that you need to do. Links regarding myself are there also. I'll be putting timestamps on this podcast later on, so definitely check out for that if you're that way inclined. If you're watching the show, if you're in the audio side of it, I'll definitely add it for all the main topics I spoke about also. But for those of you watching live, thank you for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to have your company. If you're listening via the audio platform, you shall hear my tune of the day playing underneath this. If you're watching this, it will just fade to black and you won't hear anything overall. And I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Peace. Peace.